What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 43 of the Hoop Venue Podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend Sean. We're a solid, there's 8 seconds left, so I just looked at my screen. Let me go ahead and click the TV off because this one's over. We planned, in our last episode, we did a preview of the Eastern Conference second round and kind of a recap of our biggest takeaways from the first round. And we wanted to wait until we had our confirmed Western Conference matchups to do the exact same thing for this conference. So, as I'm speaking, the Warriors have eliminated the Houston Rockets in Game 7 after almost blowing a 3-1 lead. We just got the Buddy Hield game in Game 7. I'm just going to give you the floor, Sean. Let's start with this game because we both just got done watching it. What were kind of your big takeaways from both sides? And then how does that project into the second round for Golden State?
Yeah, so I think with I'm going to start with Houston because the take that I want to start off with is something I brought up, right before we hopped on. It is that NBA Twitter does not agree on jack anything, but it is so cool to see how universally everybody understands that Amen Thompson is the guy going forward for Houston. He's a freak, man, and Golden State really challenged him early in this series, and his ability to just push pace off of rebounds. Elite cutter already, in year 2 on the top 5 cutters in the league. Obviously, elite defensive player. Really, really hope. I think he has really good feel, too. A couple of times they would find him on the baseline cut. He made a couple of good reads out of it. Hit Sengun on what should have been an and one on one example, I want to say, early in the fourth quarter. And obviously, hope on men. I had a little bit of a calf scare in the second half, and then Steph immediately got going when he went out the game. Houston's a team I didn't give a lot of credit for heading into the season. As a matter of fact, I think I came on the show and said and mocked Rockets fans for saying that, we're going to be a 50-win team this season. And that's what they were. So shout out Udoka, Emi Udoka, for setting the culture. They have a lot of fun pieces going forward, but God, I'm not going to curse for 2 minutes into the program. God dog, this is an awful game of offense, immediately following one of the better games of offense we're going to get in Pacers-Cavs. Both teams lack still some semblance of creation. Good news for the Warriors, they're probably not going to face a defense more frustrating to play against. Well, never mind. They make it past Minnesota. Yeah, yes, they will. But
I'll be sure Minnesota's not more annoying than Houston.
Not in the way that I think Houston annoyed Golden State. I think Minnesota's more annoying in a different lens.
Okay,
personally.
I see what you're saying. Because they don't have all those just freaky, athletic, high-energy 16-year-olds
right.
chasing guys around screens for all 48 minutes. Yeah, okay, I see where you're coming from. Can I say, on your point, to your point about Amen Thompson being universally loved and there's nothing else NBA Twitter agrees on, can I throw out another thing that I think NBA Twitter unanimously agrees on?
Sure.
Steven Adams is a hooper.
Steven Adams is a hooper.
I haven't seen a single negative thought on Steven Adams ever. Because, what's there to not love? Between the elite screening, the elite offensive and defensive rebounding, the rim protection, the mobility in space to play up at the level of screens against Steph. Shout out Steven Adams, man. And I think, that's one of the ultimate guys in the league where he becomes available and all 30 teams are we need this guy. He can be in our rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out Steven Adams. Contract year for him, too, I think. Coming off of where he didn't really play at all last year. I think he was still hurt.
Yeah, you're right.
So shout out to him, man. In the contract year, be able to, come in and make a big impact for the Rockets in the playoffs. God, your TV really wants...
No, my TV just turned on its own, and it won't turn off.
Your TV really wants us to hear what Steph has to say, or is it Jimmy? My TV's on mute, and it's Steph.
Bro, what do I have, a ghost? What just happened?
Man, your TV's on some C4 energy drinks right now.
And the worst part is, when it was on before I turned it off the first time, it was muted. So it turned on and unmuted itself for Steph Curry's interview. I don't know what that was, but that was weird. Okay, where were we?
Steven Adams is a hooper. Glad he was able to bounce back and be a big-time playoff player for the Rockets this year.
Yeah, I think also shout out Dylan Brooks. I was
Yeah.
thinking I kind of had a take during Game 7 where I was like, Dylan Brooks maybe was the best Rocket in this series. Like, there's a few guys you could argue, but in terms of, like, I think Van Vliet is one guy who, after the first game or 2 or 3 games, was just unconscious as a pull-up shooter and as a pick-and-roll operator, and he's always a really smart, savvy defensive player, so he has an argument. Şengün was probably their most reliable creator from start to finish. The post-ups were a big part of their offense. He was drawing fouls, getting on the glass. Really good defensive series from Şengün as well. Steven Adams, of course, has an argument. Jabari Smith, I was shocked he didn't get more minutes. I think he only had 7 first half minutes in Game 7, which is kind of weird because I feel like in terms of what they wanted, the way they wanted to attack Golden State on both ends of the ball, I feel like Jabari Smith was kind of their go-to guy schematically for unlocking a lot of the things they wanted to do with the added size, keeping up the shooting, just things of that nature. And then I think Dylan Brooks was their most reliable spot-up shooter, one of their go-to defenders. Did a really good job on Jimmy in this series. Man, Thompson has honestly, I guess shout out to just the Rockets as a team in general, because like you said, neither of us saw them seriously like being a 50-win threat. And for them to get the second seed, go into this Golden State series, get down 3-1, and then climb back to a Game 7 and then make that Game 7 competitive up until like the last 4 minutes as one of the youngest teams in the league. It's just a testament to the season that they had. That they really had a really good season. Didn't get enough Aaron Holiday minutes though, so couldn't get it done. Couldn't get it done. Let's talk about the Warriors side. And actually, going back to my point about like Minnesota kind of being as annoying. Am I crazy for thinking so? Dude, I do this every time, but I got to go back to the Lakers series for a second. God, this is just becoming a running gag on this show where I just bring everything back to the Lakers series and basically just troll Sean. No,
the
but
Thunder are going to win the championship this season, and Shea's going to win Finals MVP, and Tyler's going to be like, well, look, this all goes back to their second April meeting. That's the moment Shea locked in. I'm like, what the heck?
No, but in all seriousness, you'll see where I'm going with this point. So, in last year's Western Conference Finals, the Wolves got absolutely picked apart by Luka and the Mavs, right? Just had no answer defensively. Mm-hmm. And then Boston did something in the finals with the way they approached Luka that kind of like laid the blueprint for what the Wolves were going to do this year against the Lakers. Obviously, it's a different personnel, different team, and things like that, but in a way, they kind of used what the Celtics did and built off of it as their blueprint defensively. And I actually think they're going to do the exact same thing in this upcoming series with what Houston did. Because Houston kind of laid the blueprint. Like, Houston lost this series because they couldn't produce enough offense. But their defense did a really good job against Golden State, pretty much start to finish in this series. They did a good job of limiting Steph. They did a good job of limiting Jimmy. They did a good job of taking advantage of non-shooters and winning the possession battle. So I think they kind of laid the blueprint for what Minnesota can do defensively, where we're going to switch every action involving Steph in a wing. We are going to put 2 on the ball every time it's Steph in a big. And I almost wonder if they can execute even better, because it's basically all of the same things, and then the last line of defense is Rudy Gobert. Like, I don't know what you do, because I'm kind of thinking, like, the ways that the Warriors were able to beat the Rockets in this series offensively was a godly shot making from Steph, which sometimes is just going to happen. You just kind of tip your cap. There's nothing you can do about that. It was also Steph beating like blitzes and hedges, getting around and creating rim pressure. But it's like, if Rudy Gobert is involved in these actions, or if he's the guy rotating over, or even Jaden McDaniels is the guy rotating over, or whoever the case may be, I just think Houston kind of laid the blueprint for what Minnesota can do defensively, and then Minnesota just has a way better offense.
Yeah. So matchup wise, are you going J-Mac on Steph? I'm assuming. Or are you going J-Mac on Jimmy?
You can go a lot of ways, and I guess that's kind of like a luxury that Minnesota has. You can go Anthony Edwards on Steph. I would say no, just because you don't want to tire him out on offense.
Yeah.
Like, chasing Steph around wouldn't be good for him. And maybe the Warriors try to exploit that by putting Ant, like, they try to get Ant onto Steph every possession, maybe. Jaden McDaniels is probably who you start with in the starting lineup. But also, like, I think DiVincenzo is going to get a lot of run on Steph when he comes in because he's a really good chaser and he's also really good at, like, those rear contests where he can, like, get a hand on the ball from behind on a shooter. So I think Dante's going to be a big piece off the bench against Steph, but in starting and closing, well, actually, DiVincenzo closes games. So maybe he's the guy they close with, but starting lineup, I think Jaden probably is the guy that gets the initial Steph. Who do you put Ant on then? Is it Jimmy? Where do you go Randall on Jimmy? Because Randall in that first round, Randall showed me something as a man defender. Like, am I crazy? Like, Randall can, because Jimmy wants to play physical. He wants to play bully ball. And also, I don't think Jimmy looks 100% since the back injury in terms of agility and, like, flexibility on drives. He basically hasn't gotten to the line in the last few games. I think as a team, they attempted 5 free throws up until, like, the last 3 minutes of this game. So I think you probably go Randall on Jimmy. And Conley on Hield and Pajemski because they're probably going to start with that lineup.
And then what? Rudy on Draymond. Yeah, that's probably what you do if I'm Minnesota. Golden State hasn't played Minnesota this season with Jimmy. The final 2 matchups, Draymond didn't play. The matchup before that, I think Kuminga was the starter still, and the first matchup, Draymond was doing this weird phase where he's coming off the bench, and it was Kuminga and Kevon Looney in the starting lineup.
I forgot about that.
So there hasn't really been a real game from a like lineup or rotation standpoint where Golden State saw Minnesota when they were in full strength. Like, for example, the starting 5 for Golden State in their most recent game, which would be January 15th, the Golden State won the season series 3-1. Not that necessarily means anything. It was Steph, Dennis Schroeder. Remember we were gassing up that trade? Steph,
oh yeah,
Dennis Schroeder, Andrew Wiggins, Guy Santos, and Trace Jackson Davis. That was the starting 5 on January 15th.
Interesting.
Buddy Hield, Kevon Looney, Gary Payton, and Moses Moody were the bench. So what? We're talking about 6 rotation players.
Yeah.
Currently for the Warriors that played in that game. So, I don't know. I think with Golden State, because then if we're putting J-Mac on Steph and we're switching. So what? We're switching any guard wing action.
Switching everything except for with Gobert. Gobert 2 on the ball. Everything else a switch.
Okay, cool. Then I'm gonna just pick my matchups with Steph and see if we can get Conley on an island with Steph, or if we can get Ant chasing Steph off the ball, or if we can get, you said switch everything. See if we get Randall on an island with Steph. I honestly think you're just better off saying we can go full court with J-Mac, have J-Mac be the Brooks or the Amin Thompson in terms of the full court pressure, just being ultra physical with Steph.
Yeah.
And then honestly, I'm trying pretty hard, honestly, to keep J-Mac attached. And somebody on Twitter, I saw that it's a mutual, threw out an idea. If you go back to in terms of guarding Steph off ball, Minnesota has the perfect personnel to do this, and I hate that we're bringing every conversation back to the Lakers.
I know where you're going with this, though. I know where you're going.
In game 1 of that series, and they did it in the regular season too that year, the Lakers basically top-locked every single off-ball action with Steph and sent him into elite rim protector / drop anchoring big and AD. Minnesota can arguably do that better.
They can, yeah.
Jaden McDaniels, we're just going to top-lock all of his actions, because then that's how, if we're switching the off-ball stuff too, that's how we keep Ant off of Steph and we keep our preferred matchup in Jaden McDaniels on Steph. And then, to neutralize the cutting angles of Steph, we're just setting him right into 7-foot rim god in Rudy Gobert.
I can see I see the argument for that. So how did the Warriors, if you remember, attack that?
They just eventually went away from it and said, okay, cool, we're going to put you guys in spread pick and roll every time.
Yeah.
Like after, I think game 1, it was somewhere like the typical Warriors volume, like low teens for Steph pick and rolls or Warriors pick and rolls in general. Every game after that was like 20s to 30s. They just spammed it.
Yeah. I do remember that. And then the Lakers got freaky with the matchups. They started putting AD on Wiggins and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember that. So I see the argument for both sides because I do think that's a good way to limit Steph's off-ball usage, and I do think even just in these last 2 years, like 2023 Steph definitely was more physically capable of taking on that on-ball load, and even he gassed out by the end of that Lakers series. Like the last 2 or 3 games, he was not the same Steph from the Kings series or the first couple games of the Lakers series, and he was just kind of like shot mobility-wise. So maybe that's where you go. The only reason I was thinking about the switching is because that's what Houston did, and they really were able to limit like the mental lapses and the breakdowns. There weren't really any plays in the series where it's like, oh, 2 guys end up on Steph and we get a wide open layup. There wasn't much of that, so they were able to like limit Draymond's assists, which I think is a pretty big deal. Like if you can make Draymond a 2 or 3 assist guy, he's useless on offense. And that's kind of what you want to do to limit the work, because then you force them to get another shooter on the court. Now they're not as capable defensively. Yeah, I think that's an interesting combo because, like you said, then you're able to keep those other guys off of Steph, and they're able to conserve energy, things of that nature. Let's flip sides real quick. How are you, who are you putting on Gobert? Is it Draymond or Jimmy?
If it's Jimmy, then we're just switching all the
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But Gobert's just not going to screen then, because in the Lakers series, he just sat under the basket.
And then who's guarding Ant?
Pajemski. It's Buddy Hield, probably, actually. It's probably Buddy Hield. It's got to be Moody. I feel like you got to start Moody.
So what? Steph, Pods, Moody, Jimmy.
I don't know if they're going to do that, but I would start Moody because Moody is your best option. I mean, Gary Payton's obviously the best option, but if you're playing GP2 and Draymond and Jimmy, Gobert's just, you're not scoring.
Gobert's eating. This is the series I've been waiting for.
Yeah. I think I would start Moody and then go Moody on Ant. But yeah, like what's stopping the Wolves from just doing exactly what they did against the Lakers? Just
Especially
switching for the matchup they want.
Yeah. Like you probably go if you just stick with the regular lineups. I think you just go Dre on Rudy, because like if we're going with the lineups like they've been starting recently, like where it's Buddy and Pods and stuff, then like okay. Well then, crap. Who's on Randall? It's got to be Jimmy. Yeah,
I feel like Draymond has to be on Randall, like to nullify the because Randall's just gonna bully anyone who isn't Draymond. I feel like.
Even Jimmy, you think?
Yeah, dude. Randall's a bully. Randall was bullying LeBron, dude. Randall's a bully. Also, Randall is like has developed into a really good speed driver. Like he's actually getting around guys fully, as opposed to just the muscling through. Randall's a good player, man. Shout out Randall. Who's guarding Jaden McDaniels?
Pods?
Oh man, dude. The Wolves are a matchup problem for everyone, dude. They're huge. That's the difference between them and Houston, because Houston goes big, but then they have 2 non-shooters. Minnesota goes big, and they still have a bunch of shooters. That's the problem.
Yeah. Because, like, the natural thing is, like, Stephon Conley or, like, DiVincenzo or Nah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get Naz Reid in the game. Who the heck's guarding Naz Reid in this series? You think we'll see the lineup with Randall, Reid, and Gobert at any point in this series?
And we're just going to offensive rebound, like, every single shot?
Yeah.
We're going to be the Rockets, but shooting, literally.
Dude, Ant McDaniels, Reid, Randall, and Gobert. Like, dude, what do you do against that lineup?
The small ball analytics aren't going to win that one.
Okay, not the buzzword, dude. Not the buzzword. No, I guess this speaks to a larger point that I'm still mad that I didn't pick the Timberwolves in the first round after ranking them so high on my
Brings us
contenders
back to
list.
the Lakers again somehow.
No, I'm not even going to mention the team. Not even mention the team. Just Timberwolves focused. Their lineup versatility is absurd. It's maybe the best in the league, not named OKC. Like, they can throw out so many different lineups, so many different looks. They can go to a passing lineup. They can go to a shooting lineup. They can go to a rebounding lineup. They can go to a defense lineup. They can go to a bunch of different defense lineups. They can go to switch, rim protection. They can do so much on both ends of the floor that Golden State simply doesn't have the luxury of doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem. Like when Houston started leaning into the double bigs, it took Golden State like 2 or 3 games to adjust. And Minnesota can go to these types of lineups with significantly more offensive talent. Like imagine how much differently that Houston series looks if Jalen Green is Anthony Edwards. Like, what do you... I don't know, dude. I don't know. I just think... I guess this speaks to a larger point. I think Minnesota has a pretty big advantage in this series.
Yeah, man. So that means Ant's playoff resume just continues to grow, huh? Also, is that okay? I promise you, this is not just a shameless plug. I just saw the logo. Is that a HV hoodie? There we go. That's
we got a Hoop Venue hoodie on here. We got a Hoop Venue hoodie on, man. Appreciate it, man.
Not scripted. So Tyler, let me just hold on. Was there anything else that I'm missing here? I saw.
Yeah,
I saw
this was
a plug.
Sponsored segment actually. Now the video is going to redirect to the hoopvenue.com website. Go get your merch.
Wait.
Go get your merch. Good plug. No, that was a good. That was a good plug from you. So I don't want to make it sound like
blue and orange thunder. Oh crap! My bad. The script writers.
I don't want to make it sound like the Warriors don't have a chance in the series. Like, Steph could go for some outlier shot making. They could find ways to exploit Gobert. Well, not exploit Gobert, but pull him out of the paint. Because there's no exploiting Gobert. I feel like it doesn't need to be said at this point. If you still think Gobert is being exploited or played off the floor, defensively at least, you're just not watching. You're just not watching the sport, the same sport that I am. But there probably are ways to pull him out of the paint with your motion, lateral action, and things like that.
But that's what you just top block.
Draymond also has...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Draymond has that gear against Gobert. Like, remember when he walked him down and had that dagger dunk earlier this season?
Yeah, got picked up. Got me a tweet picked up by overtime. There we go.
There we go.
But yeah, what I was going to say really quickly about the Gobert thing, the top block, because then we just keep Gobert on the baseline the entire series. And then after you go to, like I said, if you go back to that Lakers series, the Lakers, the reason why the step pick and roll stuff worked is the Lakers didn't have anybody that can navigate screens efficiently. And it turned into hedging or playing an incredibly high drop with AD, and that's how you get Draymond going as a short role playmaker and decision maker, where Minnesota can, okay, cool, the adjustment is Steph gets to run ball screen at 25 times a game. That's abnormally high, but you get my point. Cool, we have Rudy and we have a plethora of just great POA screen navigators, and we go off the bench. Dante's a good chaser, like you mentioned. If we have to, we can go and then Jaden McDaniels in a Steph matchup is still a really, really good screen navigator.
Still have Alexander Walker.
Yeah, I said first.
Oh, you did. My fault.
No, you're good.
It's a little bit late.
It's a little bit late.
It's bedtime.
And then if it's like a wing to wing, you can still switch it if you really, really had to. So I think I'm curious to see what Minnesota's plan is going in.
You said a good point there that I didn't really think about, and it was the idea of keeping Gobert on the baseline. Because I'm looking at the Warriors roster, and quite literally the only player I can possibly think of that I don't want Gobert switched onto is Steph. Like, if Gobert ends up with Jimmy on an island, I think that's a perfectly fine matchup. I'm not scared of that at all. Like, I think Jimmy could make him work in isolation, but it's like the Grizzlies put Zach Edey on him, and Zach Edey had moments against Jimmy in isolation. So if Zach Edey can do it, I very much trust Gobert to have the mobility and the length to sag off and make Jimmy beat him from the mid-range, which anytime Jimmy takes a mid-range, I think, he's a good mid-range scorer, but you live with that over a layup or a three from anyone on the court. Like Gobert, if they put Draymond in the dunker or in the corner, you're fine with that. If they put Quentin Post out there, you're fine with Gobert matching up with him. I'm fine with Gobert roaming off of Pajemski or Buddy Hield or Moses Moody, whoever the kid. Like, you can basically pre-switch. Is that where you were going with that? You can kind of just pre-switch everything and then top lock, and Gobert's just always near the basket in some capacity. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you still,
So what do you? Okay. What do you think you do? So let's assume the Gobert offense is just so bad, like during those minutes that the Wolves again have to lean into the Naz Reid minutes a lot more, especially to close games. How do you think the Wolves defend during those minutes with Randall and Reed as the 4 and 5?
that's where I kind of do what the Rockets did. I use that as like my secondary option when there's no Rudy. I think Houston did maybe, and I don't want to have like recency bias, but I feel like Houston did about as good of a job as anybody ever has at switching underneath against Golden State.
Yeah.
And that's pivotal. You got to switch underneath. Because if you don't switch underneath, and that's where you get the 2-on step, and we're trying to switch over the top, and Jimmy gets his slips, or Katie, Iggy, Clay, all these other guys, they get their slips and finishes to the rim. Steph, even when they go inverted action, use Steph as a cutter. Now there will be the off occasion, but we're talking about once a game where against almost everybody else, it feels like 4 or 5 times a game where it's open layup, open Steph 3, open slip that leads to chain reaction that leads to corner skip 3. Houston did legitimately a dominant job at that. And again, kudos to Udoka and the staff for having Houston prepared. Also, Houston's length on the backside is just absurd. Like a men Thompson block to start the third quarter was actually off of a blown coverage. I think this was like one of the few occasions where Houston botched a slip coverage. And Amon just recovered it and just pinned it off the left side of the backboard. Maybe a goaltend, but they didn't call it. So we're gonna Amon agenda. We're gonna say it's a block. So that would probably be my backup, but I think switching against Golden State's always scary because if you don't execute it, then again they're better than anybody ever at capitalizing off of blown coverages on second side action.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm with you. What about I do think the Warriors can do their small ball thing, and kind of just against the Wolves specifically. The big difference between them and the Lakers with these small ball lineups is that Jimmy and Draymond are just on completely different planets as roamers than any of those guys for the Lakers were. So not only will it be tougher, also the rebounding aspect. Like I think they're a better rebounding front court, so they'll probably be able to keep Gobert off the glass at least a little bit better. And also they'll do a good job, I think, of forcing Gobert to catch the ball in the middle of the floor as opposed to near the basket where he can just turn and dunk. What do you think, though? Like, what do you think the Warriors can do to prevent Gobert from having like a game 5 like he did against the Lakers?
It sucks because Draymond is probably one of the only guys you could put on
Randall.
Do you on Randall? How much do you experiment with like the Looney stuff in a series against? I was
gonna say that because that was really good in Game 7 against Houston. Looney had some really big minutes against the double bigs. But then it's like now we're even weaker offensively because now that's 3 guys who Gobert doesn't have to guard at the 3-point line.
Yeah. Part of me also just thinks though that like you said that Golden State from a front court standpoint is a little bit stronger rebounding the ball with Jimmy and with Draymond than the Lakers. Pod's even a pretty good rebounder.
Same with Steph. Steph's a pretty good rebounder.
Steph's a good guard rebounder. I think honestly they go kind of what the Lakers were trying to do a little bit when they go smaller, and just we're just gonna keep the ball alive. We're just gonna do like the Houston Cougars thing, except Houston's is with offensive rebound. Like we're just gonna tip the ball every single time and keep the ball alive and allow Draymond recovering back into play, theoretically, or Jimmy who's in the play, Pod, Steph are better longer rebounders. Allow them to have a shot to get back into play, get involved. And then also that can lead to us being able to play faster and get out in transition, too, with these longer tips and be able to corral them and play in transition. Because outside of that, when the Warriors go small, I don't know if there is like another clear-cut answer outside of like we're just going to make sure Rudy's as far, we're going to try to push him as far out as possible and just keep the ball alive and not allow him to get a clear 2 hands on it. Because if 2 hands around the rim with Rudy, I mean, you still would imagine that more times than not that's a made basket for Minnesota, although he's not the best offensive player ever.
Right, but it's just like, it's like more times than not. It might look ugly for some possessions, but if you just let it happen over and over again, you end up with 27 points. So you're assuming, so let's assume, so you're going with Jimmy on Gobert if you're the Warriors.
I think you have to.
So then if Gobert screens, you're switching?
Moody.
Yeah, okay, and then are you switching with Gobert if Jimmy's Or are you like doing what the Lakers did and hedging so that, because I do think the Lakers did a really good job of taking Rudy's screening out of the game.
Yeah.
And it was by hedging or blitzing the ball in those situations and basically saying, hey, you're going to have to give the ball to Gobert in the middle of the floor. And they just didn't want to do it. They don't trust Gobert in those spots.
Yeah, and then that's how you get Rudy off the floor. You go Nas, and then at the very least you feel a little bit better.
But here's my thing. What if, so in game, like, by the end of that Lakers series, Gobert basically wasn't screening anymore. They were just having him play the Steven Adams role where it's like, you're going to start on the baseline, and you're just going to fight for position the entire possession, and then once a shot goes up, you need to be the first to it. And then I'm like, okay, what is stopping Ant from just getting a switch on to Steph? And then doing the exact same thing. Like, I'm assuming you probably have to hedge and recover with Steph because you don't want him switching on to Ant.
But and I think Golden State's better than anybody. At the very least, it's not going to be 17. Ant, when Minnesota aggressively tries to like get their matchups in this series, is not going to be as easy as it was against the Lakers. Golden State is one of the better teams, specifically when they do not want Steph switched on to somebody. Like, they're going to make you burn 5 seconds at the very least. So instead of you operating with a clear advantage with damn near 3/4 of the shot clock to go, it's going to be, okay, cool, now we have half the shot clock. You have 12 seconds to attack an advantage. And, by the way, it's Jimmy and Draymond. Another potential positive of letting Jimmy play on Rudy, which you touched on a little bit earlier, is just the roaming ability, and we'll trust, like, a backside help with Draymond and some of the other guys. I think Golden State has some flaws, obviously, defensively. It would shock me if this is a weaker series from Ant, though. Because, like I said, the processing and the decision-making is going to get sped up way more, where against the Lakers, it was, okay, cool, here's your read. You have 18 seconds to make it. That's going to get cut to, 12 to 10 seconds.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you. So what do you think you do if it's a Ant and Randall pick and roll? So we're assuming Draymond's on Randall. How do you defend that? Do you drop Draymond? Do you hedge with Draymond? Do you switch it?
And who do we say is guarding Ant?
Moody. We'll say Moody for this scenario.
I'm low-key playing drop. Am I crazy?
I mean, I feel like Ant just starts walking into pull-up threes then.
It's either drop. I don't want to switch.
Right, and that's what I was saying, because I was thinking, like, what if the Ant just starts hunting for the Draymond switch specifically? Like, Draymond can hold his own in that situation, but he's still not going to stop Ant more times than not from getting around him. And then you just completely nullify Draymond's impact as a roamer. Because if Draymond's on Randall and Randall's not involved in the primary action, Draymond can roam. He will roam, and he'll, like, make things really tough.
Am I crazy? Do you, this might be freaky. Do you pre-switch that? And then, like,
to
we're
keep Draymond...
And then low key we're gonna pre-switch, and we're gonna have Jimmy pre-switch on to Randall.
I was just gonna say that, and then drop Draymond to Gobert.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Low key.
Oh, okay, and then so that's how you play Gobert off the floor, right there. That's how you do it. Now Nas Reed's on the court. Now what do you do?
And it's what, Randall, Jimmy Randall,
Ant pick and roll, and Draymond's on Randall, and who's on Nas? Jimmy. I don't think you want Jimmy on Nas Reed in that situation.
Low key in this situation, do we just trust Jimmy on Randall? You don't have a lot of options.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I do think where I'm kind of leaning in this series when we talk it out like this is I feel like the Warriors have a lot more questions to answer than the Wolves do. I feel like the Wolves are pretty set in stone with what they can do and how they can execute it. Whereas the Warriors were talking about okay, if the Wolves do this, then what do you do?
Yeah.
Is there anything like that you're thinking about with where the Warriors have a real tactical advantage that the Wolves are going to have to figure out? On either side of the ball.
Outside of their motion stuff,
yeah.
I don't think Golden State tries the zone against Minnesota.
That's another. I didn't even think about Minnesota running the zone.
You mean Golden State running the zone?
No, Minnesota running this because Houston ran that 2-1-2 to keep Adams in the middle, and Warriors couldn't do anything for half the series. So what if you go 2-1-2 with Gobert in the middle?
So basically, Tyler's game plan for the Timberwolves is mimic every single thing that the
And then just be a better team. Yeah, just mimic everything Houston did. Because Ime Udoka's a defensive genius. He really bottled up the Warriors. So I'm thinking, like, steal everything they do with your own personnel, and then you just have way more offensive weapons.
Minnesota was like I'm looking at their like zone offense or whatever, but Minnesota was pretty good against the zone, like throughout like 1 point, basically 1 point per possession against the zone. Minnesota's zone defense was it was fine. Well, not really. It was 1.03 points per possession.
Yeah.
I don't know if they go zone. That feel like a super. Dare I say gimmicky, like late series adjustment?
It would be, yeah, it wouldn't be, they wouldn't like go to it as a part of their normal game plan. It'd be like, okay, we're struggling with this. We need to try a curveball. Let's do this. I do think this is probably a better series for Conley. He's probably easier to play in this series. Probably a better series for Alexander Walker, too.
If I'm going to say, I actually do try the 1-3-1 pretty early.
Okay.
I'm
What makes you say
trying
that?
it.
What makes you say that?
They were so good with it. Now I'm gonna see if we can like confuse.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like analytically, they're like numbers in the zone is ridiculous throughout the season. And I'm gonna see like how good Minnesota is against it. Honestly, it's not like we're running a generic 2-3. We're running a 1-3-1 that kind of drops and can confuse Ant a little bit at the very least.
Isn't that the zone that the Lakers ran in Game 5? What did they run in Game 5?
I have to go back and look. I don't think it was a 1-3-1. I want to say it was like a 3-2 almost.
It might have been. It might have been. I'm trying to remember, but all I'm thinking about is like, it was the Naz Reid and Gobert minutes. And they just either had Naz Reid or Alexander Walker get the ball in the middle of the floor. And they basically forced the low man to pick. They were like, okay, you could either play the lob to Gobert, or you could step up, or you could step up to me. And they just picked it apart over and over and over again. And that's what I'm kind of worried about, because I think the Warriors, like, as well as they do, as good as they are at executing the zone, they do still have guys who are liable to give up dribble penetration. And so I'm thinking, like, against the 1-3-1, all you really have to do is get the ball to the slot, and you can get to the middle of the floor from there. Like, whether it's, let's say Ant brings the ball up. I'm just putting Randall in the deep slot against the 1-3-1. And I'm saying you just get around that guy. And now the whole entire zone is compromised because Gobert's under the basket and he's waiting for a lob.
But will he finish it?
A lob? He'll finish a lob. He's got decent hands on lobs. It's everything. It's the low passes. The low passes he can't catch. But the lobs, he's finishing the lob.
Steph in his last 8 games, he played in all 4 this year and all 4 last year. I think that's correct. Anyway, Steph in his last 8 games against the Timberwolves, 29, 4, and 6 against the Timberwolves on 61% true shooting in the last 8 games against Minnesota.
Okay. It's pretty good.
Averaging like
he's a
7
decent
free throw
player.
attempts.
He's a decent player.
That Steph guy's all right. Shooting 42% from 3. Shooting actually better from 3 than from the field, which doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't, yeah, because you're not getting any twos. I will say, if Draymond is able to stay on Randall, this is probably a tough series for Randall. And I do think that's one of the big advantages that the Warriors have. Because Draymond probably can play Randall to a stalemate, at least. The thing I'm worried about, though, is, like, pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
Basically. Like, if Draymond's preoccupied with Randall, I don't know how much they can exploit Gobert offensively. And then if Gobert's not even in the game, I don't know what you do. If Draymond's preoccupied with Randall, I don't know what you do against, like, Naz Reid. And, like, the Wolves have a lot of weapons. McDaniel, I think we didn't give enough, like, acknowledgement to the McDaniels point. Who the heck is guarding McDaniels in the starting and closing lineup for the Warriors?
Pods.
Yeah, and it's like there's no chance there. Podziemski's a pretty good defender. I actually think he's like one of the smartest players in the league. But that's how tall is Podziemski? He's got to be giving up at least like 7 inches of height.
He's like what, 6'3"?
He's 6'4".
Oh, okay. Not far off.
And McDaniels is 6'9", but McDaniels is 6'9" with like a 9-foot wingspan. So you might as well just call him a 7-footer. Yeah. So what's your we just did like 40 million minutes on the series. What's your prediction?
I got Wolves in 6.
I do too. I got Wolves in 6 as well. I think it's a competitive series. I think the Warriors could easily. Another interesting wrinkle is that the Wolves have home court advantage in a 6-7 series, which is really interesting. I feel like a 6 seed never gets home court advantage in the second round.
Last time we saw it was Lakers Warriors. We're just gonna keep.
That was a 6-7. Wow.
Yeah, if we're gonna keep doing this the Lakers callback thing, then yeah, might as well have a good Lakers callback.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we both got Wolves in 6. I could see what is the range of endings you could see? Like if it's a Warriors win, how many games would it be lowest to highest? And then if it's a Wolves win? Because I can see the Wolves winning in 5. Is that crazy?
Not really. I think the Warriors would win. I think it would be 7, then 6.
Yeah.
And then it's like if it's like top 5 most likely outcomes, I think it's Wolves in 6, Wolves in 5, Warriors in 7, Wolves in 7, Warriors in 6.
Hang on, okay, that's an interesting point. You think if it gets to game 7, the Warriors have a better chance?
I think if it goes 7, I think.
Dude, I'm just thinking about how much more energy, like by that point, the Warriors have just gotten, that's their second, they're in their 14th playoff game with a bunch of 37-year-olds. And Anthony Edwards is just chilling after a 5-game series and then a week of rest.
Hey, that's why the Warriors get shellacked by the Thunder next round.
Yeah. I think the Wolves would, I actually think it'd be like kind of a blowout game 7 if it gets to game 7.
Okay.
Which could come back to backfire. Like if they get to game 7 and the Warriors just blitz them, I'd look really dumb. But yeah, Wolves in 6. Wolves in 6 is where I'm at. Wolves in 6. Okay. Let's talk Thunder Nuggets. Ooh, Thunder Nuggets. That's gonna be a fun series. Where's your head at regarding the series?
Shout out Denver defensively.
Yeah.
They weren't god awful, which we're just gonna start there. Did you see that Russell Westbrook quote?
That was fire.
That was hilarious. I'm so glad he acknowledged it.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's part of the experience, man. You know, sometimes you're gonna get, bad podcasting. The other time you're gonna get great podcasting. It's a part of the experience of, and that was essentially what Russ was saying. My first kind of initial thought is obviously like OKC. Do they continue to double Jokic in the post? Denver did a great job in terms of their spot up shooters, and Brown and Gordon and the other guys really showing up in the regular season meetings when they did double Jokic. And then too, like how does Denver guard Shea, which at this point is just a better scorer and a better player than Harden or Kawhi at this point.
Pretty comfortably.
Yeah. And then even like J-Dub as the second side creator, can Chet kind of drag Jokic out? And how creative or kind of weird does Denver get in that regard? So that's kind of where my mind immediately goes.
Yeah, I like how you brought up the Nuggets defense because they had clearly had a gear that neither of us thought they had, and that was ultimately probably the deciding factor against the Clippers was the fact that they had that defensive gear, and really held the Clippers, just kind of bottled up what the Clippers wanted to do, especially in the pick and roll. To your point, let me ask you a question. Do you think the Thunder start double bigs in this series?
I think so.
Do you think they close with double bigs?
I think it depends. Honestly,
yeah. Because I'm thinking like you brought up Chet stretching Jokic. Jokic's just going to be on iHeart in the double big lineup, and I feel like iHeart's almost all of his offensive utility is middle of the floor ball screen stuff, and with the way the Nuggets defended ball screens, I almost think iHeart's offense is kind of nullified in this series. And it's like your best offense is going to be a Shea isolation in this series pretty comfortably to me because the Nuggets just don't have anyone who can guard a Shea isolation. It's that simple. Who do you even put on Shea, first off? Is it Christian Brown? Like, I feel like that's the guy who gets the Shea matchup probably.
So are you going Jamal on, if we go double bigs, are you going Jamal on Lou Dort? You probably have to.
Kind of have to, yeah.
Okay. Jokic on iHeart.
MPJ
AG.
on Chet.
Okay. MPJ on Chet.
AG on J-Dub.
All right, and then, Brown on...
It's either Brown or AG, I think. Like, either one. I don't know which one you go on Shea. Probably start with Brown. I think that's what they usually do.
Yeah. Okay, then how are you defending if you're Denver? How do you defend, 1-4 pick and roll with Shea and Chet?
You have to switch. You have to switch.
Okay.
Okay, do they go Aaron Gordon on Chet?
That's why we said MPJ on Chet. I'm like, oh.
But it's like, you don't want MPJ on J-Dub.
I don't want MPJ on the floor.
Yeah, this is probably a bigger Westbrook series. But then you're going up against the number one defense with another weaker shooter. And that's actually a point. Westbrook shot 42% from three in the first round. And that kind of scares me. Because on one hand, if he just stays hot, then we're chilling. He was taking like 5 threes a game and making them at a 42% clip. If that just continues, we're chilling. We'll get him on the court for these minutes. The problem is, law of averages tells us at some point this is going to come back to earth. And it's like, if Westbrook starts to regress to the mean as a shooter, now we have a lot of problems. Because what's stopping the Thunder from just putting Chet or iHeart on Russ?
Yeah.
And then we need MPJ because we have no more shooting. And then MPJ's a square peg on defense. Who the heck is he guarding?
Do we agree this is not going to be the best Jamal series?
I'm with you. The ball pressure is just like Dort is going to be all over that guy.
Dort, Caruso, Kaysen.
Caruso's so good.
Dort, Caruso, Kaysen as our POA options. We have J-Dub if we want for switching. Like if you want to switch, or you can switch J-Dub out on him. And then we have Chet at the rim. I don't feel good about this be a Jamal series.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Jamal's gonna have some shot making games in there where just the defense doesn't matter. The problem is, are there gonna be enough of those to where? Because OKC, I think their pick and rolls should be not bottled up. But I don't think this is as big of an iHeart series. I think we actually saw that in the 2 regular season matchups towards the end of the year. That this isn't a big iHeart matchup. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is because I do think there's going to be a lot of middle of the floor touches for iHeart. With the way the Nuggets defend the pick and roll and kind of push the ball baseline, you're going to get a lot of like free throw line area touches for iHeart. So if that push shot is automatic like it almost always is, maybe we get like a 20-point iHeart game. Because in one of those Denver games, didn't he go off for like 20-something? Am I just making that up? I need you to pull that up, stat guy. You're the stat guy. I need you to pull up iHeart's game log against the Nuggets. Because I feel like somewhere in there he had like a 16-point first half. I could be completely making that up. But I feel like that happened. And it was straight floaters. Which it usually is for iHeart. He might actually had a career high against the Nuggets. So maybe this is a big series for him. Maybe I just made that up.
He had 20 on March 10th.
How many minutes did he play?
26.
That's a pretty good scoring rate. I think that might have been what I was thinking of. And it was just straight middle of it was like Shea drawing 2, pushing in baseline, and then iHeart catching the ball at the free throw line with nobody tagging.
Now, no, is this when Aaron Gordon was coming off the bench? Because starting lineup was
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Rush, Jamal, Christian Brown, MPJ Yoke.
Who's your fifth closer in this? I guess it depends on situation. If you're Denver, like if Russ is hitting the 3, it's obviously him.
Play.
Oh, he didn't play in that game.
No. And by the way, Nugget fans are going to hear me say this is not going to be a good Jamal series, as Jamal had 34 in this game.
Yeah. I mean, Jamal, you never know with Jamal. He's kind of an unpredictable. Like, he could very well just start shooting 48% on pull-up threes. And it's, okay. I'm thinking about I'm just thinking about matchups. I'm thinking about the fifth closer. I think depending on situation, it could be MPJ, Russ, or Watson. But with Watson, it's just going to be Chet sitting in the paint, or iHeart sitting in the paint, because you're probably going to go Chet on Jokic. I think Chet's better against Jokic, just because of the length and the speed, as opposed to iHeart kind of just gets folded by Jokic. iHeart can't guard Jokic.
And then let iHeart roam.
Yeah. And then you get no offensive rebounds with iHeart roaming.
Yeah.
And then I think I don't close with double bigs, though. I think I'm closing with Shea, Dort, J-Dub.
One of the guards.
Caruso, probably.
I'm about to say one of the guards, or maybe Aaron Wiggins.
To Caruso. Dude, if it's Dort, Caruso, J-Dub, like, I don't expect anyone for the Nuggets to have a good series. Except for Jokic, man. Like, Aaron Gordon, I think Aaron Gordon can kind of eat against that lineup. So shout out Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon just averaged 19 in the first round. Aaron Gordon's clearly the best he's ever been offensively, in my opinion, with the shot and the ball handling all coming around. But yeah, like, I think the Nuggets can do some things to make things tough, and it specifically revolves around the fact that Jokic isn't a guardable player. Like, we're talking about, did Jokic just have his worst offensive series? And he averaged 25, 12, and 10 on 58% true shooting. Like, you can't just guard. There's no stopping Jokic. So that alone makes things tough. But, like, I guess I kind of come back to, we're all overthinking the Thunder. I think, like, they won 68 games.
Bro, I said it a couple episodes back that we're doing the same thing with the Thunder right now that we did with Boston last year. Where it's like painfully obvious that this team's one of the best teams ever, but man, they haven't won a title yet, so we just can't. This team's one of the best teams ever.
And can we also talk about the fact that the Nuggets just got out of a 7-game series where they had to play their starters 42 minutes a game to get out of there, and the Thunder haven't played in a game since April 26th.
Yeah.
This is basically starting the regular season for them. Like, they're 100% fresh going into the series. Everyone's healthy. Everyone's fully healthy, and everyone's fresh. And, need I remind you, Shea was trolling for 3 games, and in Game 4 looked like peak Shea. So, like, he'll probably come into the series against a Denver team that's at least a little bit tired and fully fresh at peak form.
Jokic in the regular season, 25, 16, and 12 on 58% true shooting.
What are the turnovers? I feel like he usually turns the ball over a lot against the Thunder.
Like 3.
Okay.
He had one game where he had 5.
Okay, that's not bad. Last year, I know he really struggled with turnovers against the Thunder. He had like a 9-turnover game or something like that. Yeah, I also think, like, the depth is a big thing here, because not only do the Nuggets have a shorter rotation, not only are they going to be less rested, like, they just don't have the bodies that the Thunder can legitimately play 11 players in this series. Like, Kenrich Williams can play in the series. The other Jalen Williams can definitely play in the series, and he can get some minutes on Jokic defensively. I just feel like the Thunder have a lot of huge advantages, and it comes down to we're over-indexing on the name value that comes with having Jokic. Obviously, that matters because I do think he's the best player in the world. And obviously, he can get you a game or two just off of his sheer brilliance. But, like, the Thunder just are the all-time great team here. And they have more options. They have more depth. They have more weapons. They just kind of, across the board, check all of the boxes that you're looking for in this series, I think. Is there anything you look at in this series that Denver can, like a button Denver can push, that will force OKC out of their comfort zone?
At what point do you see, like, potentially Denver trying to just get the ball out of Shea's hands? Because we both kind of talked about Shea's isolation being the best point of offense for OKC in this series. At what point, if you're Denver, you just try to get the ball out of Shea's hands and see if X player, even if it's J-Dub or Chet, can consistently attack a numbers advantage and make decisions consistently?
I think that's actually a good idea. because I'm thinking about what they did with Kawhi in the Clippers series and the fact that the Nuggets are a really good rotating team. Like, they really rotate well and they plug the gaps well. The problem is, I think they were able to take advantage of the fact that the Clippers were often playing someone that they could leave open, like a Derrick Jones Jr. or a Chris Dunn, or even a Zubats for a lot of that series. I don't think there's anyone in OKC where you're comfortably leaving them open, and then if there is, they just check in someone who you're not. Like, if you're going to put two on the ball at half court, let's say, first of all, Shea's the best in the league at beating doubles. So your double has to be executed perfectly, or he's the one turning the corner with an advantage himself because he just got around both of them. Like, he does that a lot. But say you are able to get the ball out of his hands. Like, let's say J-Dub is one pass away, and then Isaiah Joe's in the weak side corner. And it's like, what do you give up if you're Denver? Because you have to give up something in that situation.
Yeah. It's just gonna come down like OKC's like shooters are hitting their threes in the series, and like it's wraps.
That is the big swing factor. It really is, because that's the thing. We talk about all of these matchups and schematic things, and I guess this loops back to the Golden State series. And actually, it'll be a perfect transition into our next talking point. You can't predict the luck aspects of the game. Like, if one team just decides to go ice cold from three or blistering hot from three, that's just what happens. Like Miami against Boston. Everyone picked Boston to win that series in 2023, and then the Heat shot like 48% from three as a team. Caleb Martin starts averaging 20. There's no prediction for that. So if OKC, just all of their shooters happen to go ice cold, all of a sudden Denver's issues are kind of solved. But on the flip side of that, if Caruso's shooting 40%, if Lou Dort's shooting 40%, good luck. Good luck. Because, like we talked about already, OKC sets a baseline because they're the best defensive team of this era. They set a baseline to where they can shoot well below their average and comfortably win a game.
Yeah.
So anytime they shoot above their average, they are winning the game, is basically my point.
I have OKC in 6, and that is me being very respectful to
I've got
Jokic.
5. I've got 5.
Yeah. I want to be ultra aggressive and go 5. I will say this, though. I don't really see Denver winning, and maybe that's like the biggest reason why I should bump it down to go OKC in 5. Actually, I think I'm gonna do that. I don't know what I tweeted out earlier, but talking out, I think I'm gonna swap my pick out, go OKC in 5, because I damn near think it's more likely that OKC. This might be a hot take. I think it's almost more likely that OKC sweeps than it is Denver wins the series.
So I actually was thinking that too. I think that was I'm 50-50 with you, but that's also what I said about Pacers Cavs. I said it's more likely they sweep than Pacers win, and then the Pacers win game 1. So we're both on the same page, OKC in 5. You want to move on to game 1, Pacers Cavs?
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to my point about shooting luck, I didn't come away from this game. I think there were things the Pacers did really well. First of all, we basically didn't see the Cavs zone at all, and I think that's simply because the Pacers never let them set. Like, the Pacers played so fast in this game, it was like they were constantly in transition. They were constantly getting cross matches against the Cavs bigs, taking advantage of that. Sublime offensive execution from the Pacers. They did everything to perfection, and I still came away from this game thinking, the Cavs almost won, and they lost the three-point battle by 25%. And they didn't have Darius Garland.
Yeah.
They didn't have their second best offensive player.
I think that there's some people potentially overreacting to game 1. I'm actually excited to see the Pacers win game 1. If they didn't win game 1, then it kind of feels like dang, that was the game you're supposed to win. Cleveland, presumably is going to get healthier with DG dealing with that toe sprain that they said is like a 1 to 2 week injury. So you would imagine he's back game 3, hopefully. And I'm not a doctor, obviously. But that's what you're kind of thinking. And really quickly on the DG thing, I think it's more important to get DG back, not even because of the scoring. I think you just need somebody that can also like push pace. The only guy on the Cavs that can consistently push pace is Donovan Mitchell. And it was a stretch, obviously, where like Indiana just could do nothing with Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, just
nothing.
slashing. The slashing was
third quarter, like just godly level slashing from Donovan Mitchell. And the only reason why, honestly, that Donovan Mitchell and that the game kind of went the way it went is because like Donovan Mitchell could have hit a single pull-up jump shot.
Shot 1 of 11. We shot 1 of 11 from 3. If Donovan Mitchell has a normal shooting game, he has 45 in this game.
Yes,
pretty easily.
Yeah, he has 45. The best one of it. I think they might have been the best 3-point shooting team in the league. Starting 5 shoots 7 for 29. Their bench shoots 2 for 9.
They shot as a team. As a team, I said they lost the shooting battle by 25%. That was actually an understatement. They shot 24% to the Pacers' 53%. 29% worse from 3. They also destroyed the possession game. They got 15 more shot attempts than the Pacers and still lost. So I don't know if that's. Do you think that's a positive for the Cavs or a positive for the Pacers? Where it's like Pacers on the Pacers side, it's like if we clean up some of the turnovers, we're chilling. But it's on the Cavs side, it's like, look, we can dominate the possession game. So if we just shoot normally, we win.
Wait, what was the Pacers' argument again?
They turned the ball over 16 times, and a lot of them were dead ball turnovers. So it's like if we clean up unforced errors, maybe we don't lose the possession game so bad and we just like outgun them.
To a certain extent, I mean, Cleveland still had 13 offensive rebounds. Evan Mobley had 4. I thought they did a really good job with Jared Allen. Actually, did a really good job with him. Ty and DeAndre and Isaac Okoro were decently active off the bench. I will say this though, if Cleveland's the shot making was an outlier, I don't think Indiana turns the ball over 16 times. Like I do feel like a lot of, for example, Miles Turner had an insanely just like weird turnover. He got the ball at the top of the key, tries to swing it one more. I forget honestly.
It was a no look. He threw a no look pass straight into the crowd.
Yeah, and it's like dog. He's wide open too. What are you throwing a no look pass for? There's nobody in the vicinity. What it says like Pascal or somebody. I don't even remember who it was.
It might have been Neesmith, who by the way was 4 for 6 from 3.
Oh yeah, it was Neesmith. It's like dog. There's nobody in the vicinity of Aaron Neesmith, and we're throwing no look passes. So like I think there's some fluff to go around for everybody. I will say this though. I think Cleveland has to make an adjustment defensively in terms of like, guys, we gave Indiana too many good looks. You're gonna have the occasional like Nemhard freak shot from the right wing where like 3 seconds left on the shot clock, he just throws it up and it goes in. You gotta have
everyone
that.
knew that was going in. By the way, there was no chance he was missing that.
You had the Miles Turner one before the end of the quarter. They're kind of like, all right, dog. Like, what are we doing here? Obi Toppin hits one. Benedict Mathurin hits a tough one, and he goes 3 for 5 off the bench. Teacher McConnell hit a 3. So there's going to be like some kind of like, all right, there's going to be some flukiness there. But in general, I do really think Indiana got quality look after quality look for like 3/4 of the game. There was a stretch in the middle of the third quarter where Cleveland really locked in and really made every single possession tough. And it felt like Cleveland was about to run away with the game, actually, because Indiana couldn't do anything for a legit 5 minutes. But also in the same breath, I thought Indiana, when they were able to get Cleveland at half-court setting, I thought they did an all right job. I thought, okay, can we like have the discussion about the most overrated player in basketball? Because he's
I
actually
thought you were being serious for a sec.
No, because
like, who's the most? Yeah.
No, because he's actually maybe the most underrated player, or one of the most underrated players. I can't say that statement after I called Tatum the most underrated superstar. Then I'm just, underrated has lost its meaning. But Halliburton has had again, to refrain from using the word underrated, he's had a sneaky, like, all right year since he's gotten healthy as a defender. And I think this game and the Bucks series kind of showcased that. like the fourth quarter, he just took over the game. He had the isolation possession against Jared Allen, which leads to a step back three. He has another isolation possession against Jared Allen, leads to like the step through layup to kind of add on to the lead late in the fourth. And he legit had three or four. He had like at least three or four like really positive defensive possessions that led to stops. So, and while also being this absurdly efficient offensive engine, he has this ridiculous pass in the fourth, I think, where I talked about at the beginning of the year how like Halliburton kind of refrains from the uber high degree of difficulty passes that like a Trey would, for example. But he has this pass where he's going baseline and kind of whips it cross court, crosses body to the opposite wing, where the corner skip pass might have been the easier pass, but crosses body to the wing. I think it leads to one more corner pass three. Like, just the level of decision making and playmaking that Hallie has. He's been a really good isolation scorer in the playoffs. I'm wondering if Cleveland tries to force him into more situations against matchups that they prefer, like an Evan Mobley. If you want to pre-switch some ball screen stuff. So, I don't know. Shout out to Hallie. I'm not overreacting. I had Cavs in 6. I still think it's Cavs in 6. But I'm glad Indiana did win the game.
Yeah, I had Cavs in 5 as my prediction. Maybe I'm leaning towards 6 now. Or maybe I still have Cavs in 5. I don't know. I don't really want to I don't like making takeaways after game 1. Is that like a cop-out? I just kind of like rocking with, I like to get a decent sample of 2 or 3 games before I really see where a series is going, and maybe that's...
I'm Halliburton hater.
No, whoa. I push the Halliburton agenda more than anyone on the planet, man. Except for maybe Caitlin Cooper. Caitlin Cooper might have me beat. But Halliburton is one of the best players on the planet. And that's actually where I was going to go before you ruined it all, ruined the reveal. I was going to say my biggest takeaway from this game specifically, well, first of all, the shooting luck thing, the 53%, you're not going to shoot 53% every game, but the Cavs have to fix the overhelping, and they have to fix the getting back in transition, which starts with not complaining to the refs, dude. Do you know how many times?
The Jerome example was so bad.
Dude, it was like 5 or 6 times this game where Ty Jerome would drive, probably got fouled, but instead of getting back on defense, is just like walking over to talk to the ref. And the Pacers are playing 4-on-5. 4-on-5 against the Pacers is a death sentence. They're going to score every time. So no more complaining to the refs. I hope Kenny Atkinson just rips into the entire team, because it was the whole team. Mostly Ty Jerome, but his entire team. No complaining to the refs. If something doesn't go your way on offense, haul back. Get back. And that's one thing I actually think Darius Garland does. Darius Garland does not complain to refs. So shout out Darius Garland. He's always running back. My biggest takeaway from the Pacers game was going to be individual talent on this roster is special, man. Like, Tyrese Halliburton's one of the best players on the planet. And when he's even competent defensively, like maybe a top 12 player on the planet, legitimately, like just one of the best players you can have on your team. Andrew Nembhard is a genius point of attack defender. I saw a lot of talk on Twitter today about his signature pull the chair move, where he's pulling the chair on drives. Have you seen this? Where
Andrew Nembhard's awesome.
Donovan Mitchell gets him on the hip, and right when Donovan Mitchell leans in for the bump, Nembhard backs up, and then the drive loses balance, and they miss an open layup. And I saw that, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, that was a good play by Nembhard. And then I'm seeing on Twitter all over my feed that this is a signature move that he's been doing all season. Like, he pulls the chair on drives. I don't think there's another player in the league that does that. So, and you already talked about, he's like a top 5 screen navigator in the league. So Andrew Nembhard is just this monster point of attack defender, picking the ball up 90. Him and Nesmith were both picking up 94 feet. And that just does so much for your offense, or for your defense, especially when the other team is missing their point guard. And then Nembhard also gives you 23 points, 6 assists, 0 turnovers on 70% shooting. Like, just legitimately plays like an all-NBA player in this game. So
I saw somebody on Twitter say, Nembhard deserves a starting point guard opportunity against like this uber, like high volume 2 guard. Oh wait, that's the Timberwolves. He'd be great. Ew, that'd be nasty.
I'd rather see Halliburton than Ant personally, but
Nembhard,
a man could dream.
Nembhard, Ant,
That
Jaden.
defense, dude. That defense. Yeah, I think Nemhar's just a monster player. Siakam's one of the most underrated players in the NBA. Not to use that underrated term too much, but Siakam's just a monster. You had him on All NBA. I had him as an All Star. Siakam's a monster.
Not sure how that logic works.
Aaron Neesmith, dude. Aaron Neesmith is a god tier role player. I've been saying this for like 2 years now
I wanted
because
him so bad at the deadline, and I knew it
he's
was,
one of the better point of attack defenders in the league. He's one of the most switchable defensive wings in the league, and he's also just quietly every year shoots like 43% from three, and he can play on the ball. Like he can attack off the catch and punish mismatches. Just a big physical wing who does everything on both ends. And yeah, I guess this speaks to a larger point. Like I have the Cavs in 5. I don't know if I still have the Cavs in 5. I guess maybe I'll go towards 6 because the Pacers took game 1. I also didn't expect. I expected Garland to be healthy in game 1 when I made my prediction. So that kind of throws everything off. If he's not going to be back till game 3 or 4, I don't know what to do with that because I do think they need him in this series because there's a lot of offensive firepower to deal with in this series. But yeah, I just want to say like the Pacers are a tough out for literally every team. If it was OKC, they'd be a tough out. The Pacers are just a really good freaking team. Halliburton's one of the best offensive engines we've seen in a long time. So, shout out to Indiana.
A buddy of mine asked me earlier on today. They were like, "So what's like the takeaway?" They were asking from a Laker perspective, but like, what's the takeaway from like this Pacers Cavs game like going forward? And it's like, dog, having 5 players on the floor that can legitimately like attack and make decisions off the catch is so valuable. And the Pacers don't have this elite scorer in the half court. Siakam's awesome. He's not an elite, just unstoppable offensive like half court creator. I think Halliburton is an elite offensive engine, not this elite like half court scoring threat. I think we would.
And his half court scoring is very much dependent on I turn the corner off this ball screen with an advantage, or I have a mismatch. It's not like where you can just. Like, a possession's dead, and it's like, Halliburton, we need you to just, like, create an advantage instantly from a standstill. He's just not that type of player.
Right. Somewhat similar you can say about, like, all the other guys. But the Pacers do have 5 guys. They're going to play you incredibly fast. They're all really unselfish. And then they have 5 guys that can all make a play with the ball in their hands, off the catch, within the floor of their offense. And that's why they're going to, without having this uber elite, like, standstill half-court scorer, they have the number 2 playoff offense. They have the number 1 playoff offense last year. They were a top, I don't have the numbers in front of me. They were a top, 5 offense this season. When Halliburton was healthy last year, they were a top 5 offense last year. Like, they're always going to be this elite offense, and Halliburton's always going to be this elite playoff, playoff engine too, but this elite engine in general. Because they have guys that can create for them, not for themselves, but create off the catch with an advantage that Halliburton's going to create from them in their early offense. And then you go TJ off the bench. So you go Benedict Mather off the bench. So you got Obi and Jarris and Penn Shepard. They have 10 guys that can play. And even though it's Cavs in 6, it's going to be a really freaking fun 6.
It's like a tough 6. I think Halliburton, to me, is developing into a really awesome litmus test for if you're really watching a possession-by-possession basis of a game. Like, I think the ultimate 2 guys that come to mind for me personally is always Gobert and Draymond. It's like your opinion on Gobert and Draymond after watching a bunch of possessions tells me how you think about the sport. Halliburton is developing into one of those guys because there's so many subtle things he does that other guards around the league don't do that just improve a possession, but aren't really like they're not in your face. Like there was one play in I want to say the 4th quarter that's very subtle. Halliburton grabs a defensive rebound. And while catching the defensive rebound, turns and throws an outlet pass. Like, so right when he lands, there's an outlet pass, and then they get a wide open layup on the other end. I want to say it was Siakam. And my first thought was, if Halliburton grabs a defensive rebound, the Pacers are going to score on that possession. Like, damn near guaranteed. How many other players in the league can you say that about? Any? Are there any? Like, Jokic, I guess, is one of them, but, like, Jokic grabs a lot of defensive rebounds, so it's a little bit different. Like, he grabs, like, 14, so some of those possessions are just going to slow down. Halliburton's good for like 5 offensive rebounds, or offensive would be crazy. 5 defensive rebounds. So on those 4 or 5 possessions, you're getting a layup probably, or a corner 3.
This is how elite and by the way, I think one of the more cooler parts about this series is that it's pretty obvious that neither team can guard one another after one game.
Oh, it's offensive heaven. I
Oh
love
yeah.
it.
The Cavs also play really, really fast. So with 40 examples in game one where the Cavs got a possession off of a push, like a live push ball example, like off of a rebound, of like a missed shot, off of a turnover, or just in general, like we're just pushing the half court offense. 40 examples. The Cavs scored 1.1 points per possession on any push ball example. Really, really good stuff. Pacers scored 1.31 points per possession whenever they get to push the ball in any capacity on 5 examples off of a turnover, 1.7 points per possession. So you're basically gifting the Pacers a basket. And then anytime the Pacers got to push off of a shot attempt, it was 1.26 points per possession. So, like, Pacers are going to play stupidly fast. And they're, like, the best at it.
And it's like, I feel like we all...
Without Garland. They're the best at it without Garland. Sorry to cut you off, because that was one of the points you made going into the series, that the Cavs could be better at it with Garland. Without Garland, then it's just the Pacers are the better team at playing fast.
Yeah, I agree. And it's because Halliburton's the best player in the league at pushing pace. Straight up.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the most lethal weapon in transition. That's probably Giannis. But in terms of just, I'm going to speed up the offense, there's nobody's going to say. He's the best probably since Steve Nash at doing that. It's absurd. It's absurd watching him push pace. And that's something, like, not to just harp on this player rankings thing, but I feel like we're wired to almost like let the box score influence how we watch the game, even if we aren't thinking about it. Whereas, like, the moment when you start ranking offensive players, we'll say, the first thing people think about, I feel like, is, okay, how's your combination of scoring and playmaking? And that basically stems from, like, the points generated thing, like points plus assists. But it's like, Halliburton does so many things to just make the team have an easier job on offense that never gets grouped in with, like, it got to a point where last year he was so good at pushing pace and just making, like, timely passes to improve possessions that people were saying he was overrated because he got a bunch of Rondo assists. And it's like, are you watching how valuable these passes are to the team's offense? Like, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Rondo assist, right? Where it's like, I'm not actually creating an advantage. I'm just passing the ball to someone who already did. That matters a lot. Like, to do that every time and never turn the ball over, to do it in transition and always generate layups and corner threes. Is Halliburton the best decision maker in the NBA right now?
So I was having a conversation with somebody about, like, Halliburton in general as a playmaker. It was like, somebody said he's third. I'm like, okay, it's 1 and 2, Jokic and Luka. And he was like, yeah, number 1 was Jokic and Luka. I was like, I think Halliburton might be 2. And it's simply because I think, and this is why the argument for Halliburton to be the best decision maker, I believe that's the wording you used, in the league, is because I think Halliburton might be the most scheme-proof playmaker in the league. Because of the fact that no matter what you do, he doesn't turn the ball over. You can't stop the fact that he's going to push pace at a stupidly high level. And then also the fact that, okay, cool, we slow the Pacers down. He's still a really, like, high-level half-court playmaker out of ball screens or even as an isolation creator, where he can still, if he has a mismatch, still break down a defender and get into the teeth of the defense and find the plethora of shooters that Indiana's going to have on the floor. And comparing him to Luka, Luka's more turnover prone, and Luka's now had at least 2 examples of really underwhelming playmaking series because the defense did something schematic.
Right.
Where
and you don't get any of the transition stuff.
And even Jokic, to a certain extent, you could go, all right, cool. Hypothetically, we could just play one-on-one with Jokic and lower the playmaking impact, where I don't think you really can do anything with Halliburton, like, schematically.
I hear you. So to your point on Halliburton, I think in the half court, the best way to limit his playmaking is just to switch everything, because he does, like, rely on the ball screen. And like you said, he's still going to get around his defender a lot and then, like, kick it to the corner or whatever. So you can't really take his playmaking out of games. But compare that to Trae Young for example, where it's like you can do the same thing with Trae Young. He relies on the ball screen to create advantages, and then he's just a master of picking apart the defense as a pick and roll passer. But like you can do the same thing where you switch, and then Trae Young has none of the transition stuff. So right there, like Halliburton has that instant advantage over everyone where it's, okay, no matter what you do in the half court, I'm still good for like 10 shots created in transition. There's nothing you can do about that. So I agree with you there. To your point on the Jokic thing, I don't think it's that simple just because he does weird, subtle things as a playmaker that we don't always think of as playmaking, where it's like, okay, you're playing me straight up. I'm going to go do a dribble handoff. That's playmaking. And then I'm going to screen, and then my defender's not going to leave me off the screen, and I'm going to have roll gravity. Or also, Jokic has the cheat code of always pulling a rim protector to the top of the key. So even if you're going to play him in single coverage, like you're going to get a lot of that just open cuts and screening action. Like that's what we saw in the Clippers series. They played Zubac, they had Zubac play him straight up, and he just started doing like inverted pick and roll or like pinch post stuff. Yeah. And he still ends up averaging 10 assists a game.
I think that, the advantage for Halliburton is just the fact that, like, he could just start his own offense whenever he wants in transition.
Yeah. I think Halliburton, I think that's a good point. I think Halliburton probably does have an argument to be the best playmaker in the NBA. And then when he has, like, when the shot's going or just, like, he's consistently winning in his matchup in isolation, he's just on a short list of, like, the top 5, 6, 7 offensive players on the planet. He can also play off the ball. Like, we didn't even talk about that. He can also play off the ball really well.
Yeah.
Halliburton's so good, man. So good. So underrated, man.
It sucks. We're talking about the Pacers because, okay, they lose this series, assuming they do. And by the way, if Garland doesn't come back to, like, the middle of the series, and I tweet this out, I officially have no clue. Because, like, let's say Garland's back game 3. Cleveland does their job and wins game 2. Then I'm still like, okay, cool, Cavs in 6. Any longer than that, and I'm like, okay, I officially don't know anymore, and Indiana can actually win this series because I think Cleveland needs for one, like you said, gain their second best offensive player and just have court creator back. And then 2, they need somebody else on this team that can just push pace that's not named Donovan Mitchell. Because then at that point, like, we're talking game 4. If it's that bad, we're talking game 4, game 5, or whatever. With DG, then it's, okay, Indiana could sneak out this series, but that's not the point. The point I was trying to get to was, assuming Cleveland wins this series, the tough part about Indiana is, like, where do you go after this? Well, like what's the next step for Indiana where, like, they have a really good team, it just sucks that you're in a conference now with another potentially even better version of you in terms of being an offensive juggernaut while also having 2 defensive, like, elite defensive anchors, and then having the Celtics, although the Celtics might be forced to blow things up this summer. I don't know. Like, Indiana projecting them going forward is just a tough conversation because it, like, sucks.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to dodge that question. I'm just going to say let's save that for the offseason because I haven't looked enough into contract situations and things of that nature where I think that's kind of where the conversation would have to go. Yeah. So I'm going to dodge that. Do you have an answer or do you want to just wait?
I was honestly just asking a question.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, what their situation is off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what Nemhard's I think Nemhard's locked in for 3 years on a pretty cheap deal.
Nemhard's on a great deal. This is next year kicks off year 1 of that deal. I know that.
Okay,
for sure.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. I also, dude, back to the Halliburton thing real quick. One more point I wanted to get to. I feel like there's this thing with Rudy Gobert that I've struggled with for like 5 years now, where there are genuinely people. I bet there's people listening to this episode right now, actually. But there are people out there that are genuinely convinced that Rudy Gobert just isn't that good of a player. Like, he's just really just isn't that good of, like, he's just, like, teams are insane for giving him contracts and for playing him in the play. Like, they just think he's genuinely not that good of a player. And I've run into the same thing with Halliburton, where there are people in my comment section on videos or on Twitter. Austin, yeah. Where they're genuinely convinced that Halliburton isn't that good of a player because he's not doing this like gaudy box score. Actually, his box score is pretty gaudy if you know what to look for. But he's not. It's the over index on, oh, we need a bucket. Let's get the ball to this guy. Everything chips are down. We need a bucket. There are a lot of guys I'm taking over. Like, okay, I'll just come out and say it, and people aren't gonna say it. I don't think Halliburton versus Cade is a discussion at all. But there are a lot of people who would take Cade because Cade is more of that, like, slow things down and get me a bucket. But like in terms of who I'd want running my team, I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at. I usually don't like dropping spicy takes. Maybe it's because I'm ready for bed. I got some stuff I need to get off my chest. I'm not usually up this late. But yeah, shout out Halliburton, man. That's basically where I wanted to go with that. Shout out Halliburton. He's a good player.
Twitter tried to gaslight me into thinking that that Austin Reeves was better than him.
Yeah.
I love you, AR. I swear I feel like I hate on Austin Reeves, but in reality I'm more so just like, no, you guys are insane, calm down.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing the inverse of that. It's like, okay, you guys are insane, calm down. Why are you trading him? Calm down, he's fine. And then he was also dealing with the same Garland injury.
Yeah, I had someone I went back and forth with someone about the Halliburton versus Reeves thing a month or two ago. And after the game today, he tagged me on Twitter and said I was wrong. And I replied, I know. I know, man. You fell for the Halliburton derangement syndrome, man. It happens to Gobert, it happens to Draymond, it happens to Halliburton. There are a lot of great players out there who... And I think that's why I like basketball so much, because I feel like in most sports, a great player looks the same, depending on the position. Where it's like, you know what a great wide receiver looks like. You know what a great quarterback... I guess quarterback, you kind of have dual threats versus cannons. But it's like, you kind of know what it looks like. In baseball, you know what it looks like because they're all hitting. In basketball, like, I feel like there's such a crazy style. Like, there's not a concrete archetype that is... This is the best player. Like, this is the most valuable thing. And I think that's what makes it so fun to have nuanced conversations about basketball. Like, you could make the argument that Rudy Gobert and Halliburton, or not this current version of Rudy Gobert, but back to 2021. Like, 2021, Rudy Gobert was arguably a top 15 player on the planet. And he is a polar opposite archetype of what Halliburton is, who right now is arguably a top 15 player on the planet.
I see what
and it's
you're
like,
trying to say.
that's why it's so fun to dive into archetypes, because you never know.
Or like current example, okay, you can make the same argument that Wemby is a top 15 player, and Tyrese Halliburton is a top 15 player.
Right. Or Mobley. Who's better, Mobley or Darius Garland? Like, I would take Mobley, but it's super... Or even Mobley or Donovan Mitchell. Such completely different players, but there's so many ways to add value in the sport. And a lot of times I feel like you just got to look for the little things, man. Like Halliburton making that extra pass, making that kick ahead, speeding up the game, getting off the ball quickly, knowing which reads to make. It's just like there's a lot of little things that go into these conversations, and ultimately will lead you to the fact that Jalen Brunson's a top 10 player on the planet.
What?
We need to wrap this up. Celtics Knicks are actually, if you're listening to this today, we appreciate you guys listening. Sean's on Twitter at Sean_DAVI. He's on Instagram at Sean_Davis23. He's on YouTube at The Sports Headline Show and the Los Angeles Lakers Network, so make sure to go support Sean's individual content. I just noticed you're wearing a Cavaliers hat, but it's not Cleveland Cavaliers, is it?
No, I don't know what Cavs hat it is. I think I should. I think I'm gonna keep it.
Cavaliers hat is crazy after the Pacers win. You got to get a grip. Follow me on social media. My personal stuff is all on @TylerBritton_. My basketball content is all under Hoop Venue on all platforms. You know where to find me if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, I should say. All of these links will be in the description for you, so make sure to like, subscribe, and check those out. If you're on Spotify or Apple, 5-star rating goes a long way. We really appreciate you guys listening, and we will catch you guys next time for episode number 44. Jerry West, logo.